Among the fixtures that have been changed for the Cricket World Cup is the India-Pakistan match, which has been moved ahead by a day. That could be a headache for fans who are planning to travel to watch the match live. But the bigger headache would surely be the lack of clarity with regards to team selection, so close to two big tournaments like the Asia Cup and the World Cup. Hello and welcome to Sportsroom. We are joined by Ayaz, who was present when India captain Rohit Sharma recently spoke about selection headaches. So in this episode, we will discuss the World Cup fixture changes as well as Team India's selection dilemma. So finally, it's looking like the World Cup dates have been finalized, hopefully. So what do you make of the changes and the impact it can have on the event itself?
Yeah, Karthik, I think the key word there is hopefully, because we've gone back and forth about the dates for the World Cup.
Yeah.
More than finally the itinerary has been decided, and hopefully this will remain the final. The dates will not change further. But what has happened is actually not reflected too well in the organizational capabilities of or ability of the BCCI, because frankly, if you look at the 2019 World Cup, the dates were finalized a year in advance. The ticket sales had begun almost a year in advance.
Yeah.
Here we are less than 2 months away, and we are still talking about okay, the dates have been finalized, but it's not just about finalizing the dates. It's about putting tickets on sale, and then there is a now there is a problem about e-tickets. They have to be physically collected, and so on. And then I think the crux of the issue is also the India-Pakistan match, which was scheduled for in Ahmedabad on 15th October. It's been shifted by a day. But what happens is, in such a situation, there are lots of people who may have taken leave, booked their air tickets, made hotel bookings, travel arrangements, etc. That is all that pitch gets cleared, and that is so avoidable, because frankly, it's not just about two teams playing. It's also about how it's about fan engagement. It's about taking the game, and especially a World Cup, to the fans. And the fans may not be just people from Ahmedabad. They'll be from anywhere in India who will be coming to watch the match, or anywhere in the world. It's such a huge event. So I think that there are lessons to be learned. That's all I can say. It's all hopefully in the past. The kind of mix-ups that have happened, and look, there are some issues that had to be addressed. There was a mix-up in the date. It was clashing with a festival, so something had to give. But this is something which could have been thought of much earlier rather than at this late stage. Having said that, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we have a great tournament, because it's a fabulous setting. India is the host country. The best teams in the world in ODIs will be here, and the last few times that we've had the World Cup in India, in 1987, in 1996, in 2011, the matches were fabulous, close contests, etc.
Yeah.
It's not that India has done exceptionally well all times. In 1996, we lost in the semi-finals. In 2011, we won. Under MS Dhoni. In 1987, also we had lost in the semi-finals under Kapil Dev. So there are things to be drawn and learned from past experiences. But clearly, we have to live in the present and hope to win this tournament.
Yeah. No, India is obviously one of the favorites, but it looks like there is a lack of clarity regarding the team even now.
I think there's more than lack of clarity. You're right in a sense, but there are dilemmas, selection dilemmas, Karthik.
Yeah.
And I was at the, Rohit Sharma spoke to the media in Mumbai on Thursday. And he expressed, I thought he spoke with a lot of candor. He didn't shy away from kind of accepting that there are dilemmas in selection. For instance, Surya Kumar Yadav, KL Rahul, coming back from injury, Shreyas Iyer, we don't know as yet. And he talked of this, that the injuries have kind of put a suspense on the selection, but more than the suspense, it's also the dilemma. I mean, I'm sure that when he and Rahul Dravid are confabulating with Ajit Agarkar, who's also there in the West Indies, and he should be coming back shortly, as to what the team should be, and the team should be chosen not too long from now, who all should be there in contention or not. And right now, it seems that the Indian team is still in the mode of let's try out as many possibilities as possible, and then see how we firm up the squad of 15.
Yeah, does that sort of reflect badly on the current team administration? Because it feels like if you look at Australia when they were at the strongest, there's always a plan, right? If a particular person is missing, they know who's coming in. So that lack of clarity does that reflect badly on the current administration?
I think it reflects worry in the administration, from what I gather from even Rohit's statement and Dravid when he was in the West Indies, and he said we have to try out everybody. Ultimately, the squad is here, and so right now it seems to me that for instance, now Surya Kumar Yadav, there's a question mark about him in the ODIs. In T20s, he just won a match, the second match for India, batted fabulously, but in all the kind of opportunities he's got in ODIs, he's not been able to make an impact. He himself has admitted it. He said, I can't be part of the ODI team if I'm not making runs. So now it's coming down to a situation where do we give him more opportunities or do we try someone else? That's a big dilemma for the Indian selectors and the team management. Remember, there's also the Asia Cup to be played. So there are some opportunities remaining as to where all players can be tried. This KL Rahul coming back from injury, does he really fit in? Will his body hold up? We don't know till he takes the field. Shreyas Iyer, we don't know as yet whether he is going to be part of the even the Asia Cup and so on. So I mean, forget about just batting. It's also about Jasprit Bumrah, and we've talked about him in the last episode. That is great. He's coming back now. Only his we hope that his body holds up, and he's from bowling 4 overs in T20 matches to bowling 10 overs in ODIs, and then of course subsequently any number of overs in Test cricket is the kind of progression or the progress that he has to make. But there are so many ifs and buts attached to this, and that I think is a bit of a worrying factor. Yet there are some encouraging signs that have come. For instance, Tilak Verma, the way he's been batting, young Tilak Verma, just 20 years old, and even if it's in T20 matches, he's been showing the aptitude and the attitude of wanting to really succeed at the highest level, and that I think is a great quality to have in a youngster, like we saw in Yashasvi Jaiswal in Test cricket. So there are still loose ends to be tied up, and I think in that situation, it's a bit of a. I'm sure that there is it's an agonizing period for Rohit Sharma, Rahul Dravid, and the selectors.
Yeah. Given that the World Cup follows soon after the Asia Cup, do you think that India should select its World Cup squad for the Asia Cup instead of experimenting more during the Asia Cup so that they can prepare for one entire tournament? Do you think that's a good approach?
I think that's the most apt approach, the most logical approach. I mean, I'm not saying all the 15 that you want for the World Cup may be there. Somebody might not do well. Somebody might get injured in the Asia Cup. Somebody might just show completely poor form. Then what do you do? But clearly, out of 15 players, you can't keep 12 in abeyance and have only 3 people who you say, we are sure these 3 will play. I think in the Asia Cup, you should have at least, I would imagine, 12, if not 13 players who you think will be part of the World Cup squad. Remember, we've talked about batsmen largely, but there's also the issue of spinners, apart from Jadeja. Now, Kuldeep Yadav has made an impact. Yuzvendra Chahal has come back strongly, and we've seen that in the West Indies. Kuldeep Yadav too. Are they in contention? There's also the X factor, somebody who's on the horizon, which is R. Ashwin. Will they punt on him going into the World Cup? All these are questions that have arisen. But there is, the bowling attack still not settled, and the batting top order still a little wobbly, which means that there is a lot of thinking and crunching of data and playing according to the gut and how they assess. That is still to be done by Dravid, Rohit, and Ajit Agarkar, I would imagine.
Yeah. So you mentioned Tilak Verma. Jaiswal is another youngster who has been doing well. So do you think these youngsters are ready to go into a World Cup, or should there be a more cautious approach?
$1 million question again. I mean, if for instance, if Rahul is back successfully, and also Shreyas Iyer, then do you choose them ahead of everybody else because they've got so much experience? They've got their figures, their stats really hold up well for both Rahul and Shreyas Iyer. And then there is this new blood, new infusion that you want in the team, young legs, young lungs, young ambition coming in. And Tilak Verma and Yashasvi Jaiswal are 2 guys who have made an impact immediately in different formats, but they made an impact. So I wouldn't discount the the uh, the the impact that both these young batsmen have made. One is a left-hander. In fact, both are left-handers, so that's an added kind of advantage, so to speak. Though I think you should still pick your best players, left or right, doesn't matter. But in the batting order, if you have a right-left, possibility that work, because it just upsets the bowler's length, the opposing team's bowler's lengths. So I think both these youngsters actually have a good chance. Ultimately the squad will be 15. I'm assuming that players like Rohit, of course, Rohit was solemnly said that even his place is not sure. But I'm assuming that Rohit and Virat and Jadeja, as of now, maybe a Mohammad Shami, look absolutely certain. Perhaps even a Siraj in the squad. But around them now, you have to build. Apart from the 5, 6 players, you have to build 8, 9 players, and you've got 15, 16, 18 possibilities. That's the hard task, because Indian cricket, as I mentioned, is very rich in talent, and there are any number of players who are vying for 1 or 2 places or 3 places. So that's a it's a headache for the team management and the selectors, but it's a headache they have to deal with, and they have to deal with it, I think, a little smartly, and perhaps a little with a stronger gut than what we saw in the T20 World Cup. When the team was being chosen, the matches were being when the planning was being done, when there was perhaps just too much experimentation. By the time the team went into the tournament, it just didn't seem to gel for that big occasion, and we didn't do well.
Yeah, just quickly, you mentioned the left-handers. So it seems like when 2011 India had Raina and Yuvraj and all those left-handers. So has there been in recent years a decline in the number of left-handers available, or is that a major factor for India, not having enough left-handers in the batting lineup?
I mean, so for instance, Rohit in the press conference, the press meet mentioned that India has actually missed, and he's quite right. India has missed a player of the caliber of Yuvraj Singh since the 2011 World Cup, and that's 12 years back. You're going back 12 years.
Yeah.
Since then, you haven't had a player. And from Yuvraj was not just a fantastic match-winning batsman, but he also bowled. So that was an advantage, because
Yeah.
he was straddling two skill sets, and he was a left-hander. Now, somebody like that, if you take a Tilak Verma or Yashasvi Jaiswal, yes, they are both left-handers, but they are not in the Yuvraj category because they don't bowl.
Yeah.
And Yuvraj was also a gun
Yeah.
fielder. These young boys are also fantastic fielders. But what I'm trying to say is that there is, for each position, now there is I think it is a hardened approach that the team management seems to be employing. So if Yuvraj is not there at number 4, you need a batsman who can deliver like a Yuvraj. And if the choice was originally, say, a Surya Kumar Yadav, if he's not delivering, then what do you do? That dilemma just gets accentuated. And that is
Yeah.
what is happening right now with the Indian team, because the form of Surya Kumar Yadav in T20s is not translating into ODI form. It didn't translate into Test form, but he had a very limited run there. He's had a slightly longer run in ODIs, but it's not translated into great form there also. So they have to now make a quick assessment. Do we give him 4, 5 more chances, or just 2, and then put somebody else there and say, okay, you try it out, and then let's see if you make the cut for the World Cup squad.
Yeah. So again, Surya Kumar Yadav, we mentioned a couple of times. There was a time last year when he was looking unstoppable, but then he has quite not taken off that well. So what do you think, in your opinion, what do we need to do? Should we go with him in the World Cup, or is there a better option?
I think the World Cup is a little away. I think before that we got the Asia Cup. I think Rohit was
Yeah.
fairly explicit. He said, like, look, we can't keep on trying. At some stage we have to take a call.
Yeah.
And therefore I would imagine what it means is that he might get a couple of opportunities, but not more than that. So and unfortunately there are not too many matches remaining. So you have to take a call at some
Yeah.
sooner rather than later, at least in your own mind, and then take a fresh assessment once these matches are played, and then freeze, because you can't keep experimenting till the nth, till the last day, and say, now this is tomorrow the team has to be announced, I'm going to experiment today and take a call. I think that is something that is avoidable.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. Great points as always. See you next week.
Thanks Karthik. Take care. Cheers.